The following story was a finalist in our 1,000-word fast fiction contest. If you enjoy tales like this, head on over to coldopenstories.com. On the site, you'll find our call for submissions, writing competitions, and a community of authors and voice talent. While you're there, you can also check out our award-winning full-cast audio dramas, fan fiction, and original content. And now, Cold Open Stories presents The King's Muse, written by Garrett Schultz and performed by Richie Ammons.
The king sighed, his vox grill flexing in and out like flesh with emotion. It was a lovely day. The imperial city of Heritus was unprepared when the sky began to scream. When the dread claws descended and filled the city with hallucinogenic gas with their impact, only delights had followed. He was on a cliff overlooking the city, his mortal attendants scurrying about to achieve their master's will. An easel here, water receptacles there. An ancient woman, her sight lost long ago in favor of the exaltation of touch, was laying out hundreds of small pots on a shelf near the easel. 6 attendants waited patiently, with 6 chained slaves arrayed in a circle, murmuring preparatory prayers of agony and ecstasy. The cadence of their devotions harmonized pleasingly with the screams that echoed even now from the city. The king approached the easel. His armor no longer made noise. Even the sounds of ceramite sliding against ceramite no longer scratched the air. Only skin against skin. His helmet and his head were one, his eyes merging into the visor and compounding like an insect's. And oh, what a wondrous multitude of colors he could see now. A servant approached, bowing, and placed a canvas on the easel. It was a delightful cream, skinned from a slave who was born and bred for the purpose, a great honor among his servants. Before the king could paint the background, it had to be composed. The dull blacks of Heritage Towers were awash in colors cast on them by the gas, laced as it was with the prince's gifts. Hungering magentas and sly purples hunted the city, colors given thoughts and lusts. Still, it was not quite right.
Count Arthuan,
the king said into his voxcom.
A phosphex bomb on the blocks 3 kilometers east of the Avid Knighthood's Dreadclaw, and 2 plasma warheads a kilometer north of the Paramount Knighthood's current position.
Yes, your grace, Arthuan replied, his voice of spoiled honey. Brilliant colors of white, green, and purple black burst into the city with the detonations, melding with the mist to awesome effect. The king sighed again. The sight nearly brought him to tears. All the more beautiful for the extinguished souls he could see drifting from the impacts. He turned to the canvas and took up his brush. His collection of paints was prodigious, assembled throughout the centuries from countless sources, and he did not think it arrogant to call it the best in the galaxy. Some paints were only acquired at great cost. A filthy yellow derived from the pus of a plague marine, blessed and made safe by the prince. A gray mixed from the tears of a flecked addict, tears of joy and not of pain. An ethereal blue made of a crushed soulstone, the Eldar soul within still screaming with every brushstroke. And other paints of far more pernicious colors, colors for which mortal eyes would bleed to see. Yes, it was an impressive collection, and brought pride to the king. He began to paint the city's skyline, the pigment almost jumping from his brush with inspiration. The painting wanted to exist. It thirsted. Minor daemons of art and perfection were born at the edges of each brushstroke, dancing wildly with life, only to be lapped up hungrily back into oblivion by the painting.
Your Grace,
a voice said from behind him.
I bring you your Muse.
He turned to see Sir Baragor, one of the Anointed, with a sniveling man in once elegant but tattered clothes at his side. Baragor bowed mockingly to the mortal, gesturing to the king in an extravagant fashion.
I present Dromagen, king of the insatiable court, master of the feast of Theistus, and child of the Emperor.
This is the one that deactivated the orbital defenses.
The very same, Your Grace.
Delightful. You have earned a magnificent reward, mortal. Stand there,
Dromagean said, gesturing toward the cliffside in front of the skyline. When the man remained rooted to the spot, Baragor shoved him, and he stumbled onto the ground before quickly righting himself again.
You mention a reward, me lord?
The man asked. Dromagean forgave him for the misuse of his title.
I did. It will be coming shortly. Please, slightly to your left. Just a bit. Perfect.
Dromagean nodded to his 6 robed servants. Their praying took on a low, discordant rumbling that wormed into the ears, far louder than should have been possible. The slaves began to writhe in time with the chanting, until, as one, the servants slit the throats of the slaves before them. The blood arced, sprayed, and dribbled into the air, and hung there. The blood of the 6 slaves merged and congealed, floating upwards, just as the shifting orb of blood rose above the heads of the servants. A long tongue formed to lap it, and a mouth, sinuous and too wide, to drink it. After the mouth came a head, its inky black eyes filled with hunger, then a body and claws and legs, all of inhuman delicacy. Dromagean gave a short bow. It was always prudent to be polite to the avatars of the prince, and said,
My lady, I welcome you, and entreat you to join this mortal as my muse on this lovely day.
The creature tasted the air, smelled the fear wafting off the mortal waves. It smiled, an infinite gullet of teeth, and sauntered towards him. Dromagean could see the man's soul was already lost. He was awestruck, absorbed by the daemonette's glamours. Faster than he'd expected, but it made no difference. As the daemonette reached the mortal, it touched one claw to his bare chest, and the flesh fused where it met. The mortal let out a low groan. The daemonette licked his face, and the flesh fused there too. A blessed merging of man and daemon. The moans became louder, turning into screams. The king hummed, and he painted.